morning, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar on boosting your ranch's productivity with the Legacy Landscapes program. Really excited to have all of you joining us today. There are a fair few registrants, which is really exciting to see. So thank you all in advance for not only registering, but attending. We've got people filtering in as we speak here. So we'll give everybody just a moment or two to jump on, and then we will get started. We've got a pretty interesting, pretty cool lineup for you today. Hopefully a good overview and bit of a deep dive into the Legacy Landscapes program. And we'll hear from a couple of ranchers, one that is actively involved in the program. But we'll get to all that in just a minute, or as soon as we stop seeing registrations come in to the room. Thank you all for being very punctual. This usually takes a fair few minutes, but it's looking like we're filling up by the second. We will try and stick to time. We've scheduled for 60 minutes here, so we will do our best to stay to that. Want to respect all of your times. I know everybody's probably very busy here in early fall, late summer. But we will have a Q&A portion. There is a live chat. We will be monitoring both of those throughout the 60 minutes. So really the length of said webinar is up to you all, right? The more questions that we get, the more insight that you all want into the program or anything else that's discussed here today, we will do our best to take as much time as possible to cover all of those questions. So in the interest of time, I think we start to get rolling. As I said, Q&A chat is definitely a huge portion of today's webinar. We've obviously got some prepared information for you all about the Legacy Landscapes program and a few other topics that we'll get to here in just a second. But we are going to want to save a fair bit of time for your questions. Right? We want to make sure that everybody's got a good grasp on the program if they think it might be a great fit for their ranching operation. So use the Q&A portion, the chat should be somewhere down around here, to get those questions in. I'll be monitoring those throughout the next 57 minutes, and we'll get to it. If you're so inclined, throw in the chat, who you are, where you're from, maybe even how you heard about the program or the webinar, and we're excited to have you all here today. So without further ado, quick rundown of today's webinar. We are going to do a high-level overview of the Legacy Landscapes program. Myself and Bill Fox will be taking you through that. And then probably the stars of the show, we'll turn it over to Eric Yates and Stephanie Teskey for a bit of a rancher-to-rancher discussion about the program. Eric is one of our enrolled ranchers who's been taking part for about the last year or so. Get his insights, his experience so far within the program, and hopefully just learn a little bit more about him and his ranching operation. And as I said, we do want to save a fair bit of time for Q&A. So without further ado, I've mentioned everybody on the panel. I'm going to let everybody introduce themselves. I always find they do a better job than I will. But I'll kick us off. My name is Campbell Mockin. I am with AgriWebb. We are a ranch management software platform, one of the 3 partners across the Legacy Landscapes project. I've been with AgriWebb for almost a decade, so lucky enough to work with our ranchers in Australia, the UK, and now here in North America. I work really closely with Stephanie, who's also on our team, across our strategic partnerships, technical integrations, and really making sure that all the ranchers that use our software in a program like Legacy Landscapes are getting the most value they possibly can from it. So I'll turn it over to Steph, and then we'll just go in the opposite order, then Bill, then Eric, and we'll get to it.
Yeah, thanks, Campbell. Hi, everyone. I am Stephanie Teskey. I am an account manager here at AgriWebb, work closely with Campbell and really focus on our producers and making sure that they're set up for success when they join a program. I'm based in Arizona on my family's cow-calf operation that I still run with my husband and my dad. So really excited to talk about this program with you guys today and help you learn some more about it.
All right, and Bill Fox, I'm the Central Region Program Manager for the National Grazing Lands Coalition. Spent 30 years in Texas A&M University before I joined NatGLC, and have been working with the Legacy Landscapes program for the last year, and looking forward to the conversation today.
And thank y'all for having me. My name's Eric Yates, and owner of Yates Family Farms, co-owner with my wife. And we are located in Northeast Texas and have been running cattle for probably the last 18 years and have been at our current location since 2020. We operate a commercial cow-calf operation running, right now we're understocked, only have about 65 females, adult females, but traditionally running 100 to 125 commercial cows. So looking forward to talking with everybody and answering some questions about the legacy landscapes and AgriWebb.
Awesome. Fantastic. All right. Well, like I said, really exciting to have all these panelists on today. Again, thank you all for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us. Again, this is really about you all getting to as much information as you want. So get those questions coming in. We've got some amazing folk on here that are happy to answer them. But without further ado, as I said, what we wanted to do to kind of kick things off today was give a high-level overview of what is the Legacy Landscapes program. I'm not sure how everybody kind of came to be on this webinar, so we wanted to kind of back up and make sure that everybody had a solid foundation of what the program is, how you might be able to get involved as a rancher, and really the goals of the program. So Bill and I will take you through a few slides here, and as I said, we'll do a kind of a pause after this, so get those questions coming in to Q&A or the chat. So when we started to put the Legacy Landscapes program together, there really was a desire to find a common goal. And that common goal wasn't, here's the commitments that we needed to hit. It very much was, how can we put a program together that is going to blend the goals of our funders and the corporations like Nestle Purina, as well as those ranchers on the ground. Because if we don't have that alignment, it's never going to go anywhere. And so I think this was one of those sentences that we really try and gravitate to or hold ourselves accountable to, which is that, the Legacy Landscapes program aims to empower ranchers with technical assistance, value-added tools, and financial support, perhaps most importantly, for practice adoption that drives more productive, efficient, and profitable ranching operations. Right? The goal is absolutely to drive a more resilient beef supply chain. And to do that, there's a million and one different ways that we could have done that, right, Bill? I'm sure it could go through many of them, but they're all going to be very different for each rancher. And that was really where, again, Legacy Landscapes hopefully stands out a little bit differently than other projects and other programs that exist in the market today, where each rancher is unique, right? Each ranch is unique. Each pasture is unique. And so we really wanted to be able to put a framework in place that had a few key elements, but that really allowed the ranchers to use their intrinsic knowledge of their ranch in coordination, with an expert like Bill, to understand how we can make those ranches more resilient, more productive, more profitable. And so while there's kind of different strategies like improved grazing, soil analysis that are implemented by ranchers across the program, there were really kind of three stalwarts that we wanted to have to support those ranchers throughout the project. One, cash payments, right? Everybody loves a cash payment. It's always going to help bridge that gap to implement new interventions. Value-added tools that are going to help those ranchers understand what they're implementing, the insights that they can get back to further improve their businesses. And I know everyone's, initial thought might be, ooh, cash payments. I want to know what that's all about and how do I unlock that? But I think, at least in my understanding and my personal opinion, that really the most valuable portion of this project is perhaps that one-on-one technical assistance. This is not a program that is going to enroll a rancher, give them a plan, and send them on their way, right? It is one that we have incredible folks at NatGLC, like Bill and his colleagues, that are going to be with those ranchers every step of the way. They're going to have access to someone like Stephanie so that they can utilize those tools like AgriWebb to make sure that they're actually able to maximize those cash payments. And so that's really the overarching goal of Legacy Landscapes. How do we put this program together that really does empower ranchers on the ground to make the changes that maybe they've always wanted to, or that they've worked with Bill to understand that might be the best way to push their ranch forward. And so how does that actually work in practice? So at a very high level, and we're going to go through details on each one of these steps, and hopefully there's a question or two. Good to see Lewis in the chat. Everyone else, throw where you're coming from and how you came to be with us today. But without further ado, there's a very large number on the screen. And the exciting part for us is we've adjusted the Legacy Landscapes program coming here into the second year. So as we said, folks like Eric have been a part of the program over the last year, and we've made some pretty monumental changes. And that is, first, there is the opportunity, if you like what you hear here today, you get to chat with, Bill or Steph or a member of either the NatGLC or AgriWebb teams. There is the opportunity to unlock $70,000 or more in support over the next 4 years to make those changes across your ranch, to support you in kind of running that more efficient, more productive, ranching operation. So we'll go through kind of where that value comes from. And I think the even more exciting thing is that someone like Bill's time isn't actually accounted for in that figure. So there's an incredible amount of value that can be unlocked here for ranchers that participate. So great, you sign on the dotted line, you're ready to go, you're accessing all the available funds. Step number 2, Bill comes out, a member of his team comes out, really understand your unique ranching operation. What you've been working on for the past years, decades, generations, and where there might be opportunity to really push the ranching operation forward. Bill and his team helped to craft that kind of change management plan. We're not changing everything across the ranch, right? It is very specific things across the ranching operation that both with Bill and his team's expertise combined with your intrinsic knowledge and superior knowledge of your ranch, you're coming together and finding that best path forward. So as that change management plan is created, and as those changes are being made across the ranch, the AgriWebb tool and folks like Steph are there with you every step of the way to make sure that you're actually tracking the information that's going to allow us to do what we do in the final step. So you have that tool at your disposal, you're tracking those changes, you're implementing new interventions across the ranching operation, and finally you're reporting those changes. So this allows us to actually quantify the impact that a new intervention has had across a ranching operation. And it really is as simple as that. Obviously, there's plenty of complexity in primarily those middle 2 steps. But I think the exciting thing about this project is it's not just unlocking some cash payments and you're off on your own. There is support every step of the way from some pretty incredible groups and thus the people that you get to interact throughout the life of the program. So a few more details here. What does the scope look like? What do ranchers need to do to qualify? We are looking at about 7 targeted states, as you can see on the screen there. Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, Colorado, Nebraska, Kansas, and Missouri would be the states of focus. And this program really is focused on grazing lands. So as it probably says in the National Grazing Lands Coalition, the focus is on grazing focused operations, cow-calf operations, really the start of that beef supply chain. A lot of investment at the feedlot side of things, and we really wanted to put this together to invest it at the cow-calf and the preservation of the grazing lands side of things. And so if you're a cow-calf operation, you're focused on grazing, and you're in those 7 targeted states, and you're willing and able to look at some new practices and interventions across your ranch, there's a pretty good chance that you qualify to be a part of this program. I will touch briefly on this, but Bill's certainly the expert here, and I know he's gonna touch on it as well. And we've touched on a fair few of these things, but the pool of benefits is enormous and has actually gotten larger here in the second year of the Legacy Landscapes program. Not only is the kind of financial assistance for practice implementation based on actually just implementing those practices, not any of the calculations that are happening on the back end, but again, there's that kind of free access to the AgriWebb ranch management platform, free access to someone like Bill or his colleagues, and really a litany of other things that are specifically designed to allow you all ranchers to push your operations forward in the direction that you choose. So again, not a prescriptive, here's dollars to go and do exactly this. It is very much what is going to be the practice, the intervention, the avenue for your ranch that's really going to help push your ranch forward and make that impactful change. And so I guess perhaps last and not least, before I turn it over to Bill, get a quick introduction to NatGLC and his role throughout the Legacy Landscapes program. All of this sounds incredible, and I know when I was running through this, even Steph was like, "Well, what are we asking ranchers to do?" And I think that's the really exciting part about this particular program is I've got some examples here in terms of the eligible interventions that qualify to unlock all of those benefits. But really, and this is where I'll pass it off to Bill and his expertise, but I don't think it's crazy to say, Bill, really the goal is for you to understand more about the ranch, work with the rancher, not come in and say, we're improving your genetics or we're going to really focus on pasture. It's very much, let's learn together and find that best route forward. Is that a fair summary?
I think that's a great way to put it, Campbell. It's not anything about telling folks what to do. It's what kind of ideas and opportunities are you thinking about that with your management moving forward that can help move this idea of productivity and efficiencies. And so there's a suite of opportunities there that that could be taken care of. And what we have here is some. It's not an exhaustive list because there's each, as Campbell said, each operation is different, has different goals and different contexts. And so this with the way that this is set up, we have the ability to craft out that programmatic impacts that are going to be most beneficial to, by operation, not as a whole by industry. And so what we're talking about here is some things that can be done if there are opportunities. Improving genetics is obviously something that we all do or want to do. And if we're retaining heifers or we're bringing new bulls in or things like that, there's all kinds of different ways we could do that. Animal health, obviously, all of our producers are very focused on animal health, but if there are opportunities to improve that, you could do that. And, supplements and things that could look to improve gains over time. Nutrient management's another area where these can go in. A lot of operations have, both range and or managed pasture. And so with that managed pasture, there are things that we could do. And pasture improvements as a whole, forage quality, forage quantity, those types of efforts, improved availability of forages through brush management or things like that. So this, like I said, this is not an exhaustive list. This is a starter to conversations and the opportunity then to work one-on-one with that technical assistance provider to craft that programmatic effort for that particular operation.
Amazing. Yep. I couldn't have said it better myself. And again, I think the exciting thing there is that all of these things, while different, have one common goal at the end is to make that ranch, have a positive impact on that ranch's productivity, efficiency, profitability, etc. So that again, it can be quantified at the back end. And everybody is hopefully winning. And I think that's the real message that we've tried to craft Legacy Landscapes in. Like, yes, we have funders in Nestle Purina and other corporations, and they need to see that positive impact and want to see that positive impact to help build these resilient ranches, but without finding ways to make that positive impact in the way that you all as ranchers want to make on your own operations, no one wins. And so that's really the sweet spot that we've been trying to find. Bill, I might throw it over to you. Obviously, we've got three partners that are helping across the Legacy Landscapes project. Obviously, AgriWebb being the ranch management software platform. Regrow, it's doing some of the quantification, that making sure we can have that measurable impact. And obviously, a huge portion of this and the expertise that is on the ground is with NatGLC. So maybe a quick overview on that side.
You bet. So for those who are not, don't know about the National Grazing Lands Coalition, the coalition was started by ranchers in 1991 and has grown over time as a response to declining levels of technical assistance. And I think Campbell brought that out at the very beginning. You know, obviously the cash payments are a wonderful thing and the tools to help move that forward, but that technical assistance, that one-on-one interaction with folks that are, again, not telling you what to do, but are working with you and helping you move forward and meeting the goals for your operation. That one-on-one technical assistance is absolutely critical. And so today, NatGLC, we have 13 member organizations that make this up. Again, most of those are producers and also some of our supporting organizations, National Association of Conservation Districts, Society for Range Management, National Cattlemen's Beef Association, just to name a few. We've got 24 state coalitions across the country, trying to add to that. Most of those coalitions are active in the area of that was highlighted by the map that Campbell showed, that central Great Plains area into that western area. We do have some going up in the Northeast and the Southeast, and we continue to try to grow that. So anyway, that's our goal. Our goal is pretty straightforward. It's about helping the land and helping those who stirred the land with the technical assistance that can be provided. So we go on to the next slide. And I think that this says it best. You know, thriving land stewards, we recognize this, that the land steward, I've used this in the past in my conversations. I always say that the land steward is the first line of defense when it comes to conservation and moving things forward. Without you folks on the ground taking care of this land, which we know that is absolutely loved by y'all, you know, we're kind of jousting at windmills. So that land steward is kind of the center focus of this effort. And then all of the benefits that come from well stewarded land, wildlife, soils, all of these things that come as the byproducts of our operations. And I guess I should say I'm 5th generation here in South Texas also. So I wear 2 caps. The 4F cap is home for me. But, you know, and then where we're going with this, I think is what's really unique. And Campbell brought this up with some of our partners on the corporate side, is that there's developing recognition of the benefits that are provided to society by well-managed lands and clean air, clean water, healthy protein, healthy production of nutritious, you know, protein-based meat products, absolutely critical. And so, you know, our efforts at NatGLC center around the land steward, the land that they manage, and trying to move both of those forward. And that's where I think the Legacy Landscapes opportunity and idea provides another mechanism for moving this forward and keeping our working lands working, keeping people on the ground doing what they do best, and also getting others who maybe don't understand what it is that y'all do to understand the great values that are produced besides just the wonderful scenery and the wildlife and the food. There's a lot more going on. So that's kind of where we're at with the NatGLC. I think the next slide. Just to kind of give you an idea and expand a little bit on what Campbell brought up, the participation in this, I like to consider it kind of a conservation incentive package, because there's a lot packaged into this that has the benefit to aid in the conservation effort. You know, that $30,000 to $50,000 practice implementation, and again, that could be couched based upon the operation and the management goals of that. We gave an example earlier of some of the interventions or practices that could be taken, but there is an investment in that up front. There's a $3,000 per year for digital record keeping. That's very important, because if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. That's a quote from one of my good friends with the Texas Grazing Lands Coalition. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. So being able to measure it and keeping those data, and we all do it. I carried around the little red book in my pocket for years and years. I watched my dad for years and my grandfather before that. Now then we all carry one of these little things around with us. And so that opportunity is there if chosen to be part of that, to help with that, change maybe that little red book into a little black phone that you got with you. Each participant that joins on will have support in building out a marketing plan for their operation. So that's really important part of this is to, we all understand the market that we're in to an extent, but it's also a lot easier if you've got that plan in place, especially when we start. And I talk about marketing plan, but you could do grazing plans or other things. When we write things down, that gives us a chance to become accountable for what we're doing. And so that's part of the idea, is that through this marketing plan, being able to have something that we're accountable to, that we're working towards with this effort. On the back side of this, if you're a part of the states that are in the one part of the funding sources, there's a $3 per head data collection payment that is there. That's the thank you for your effort. We know you're collecting data. This is important. That data is also going to be very important to the producer at the end of the year to be able to see. We all look back at our records, but it also is something that we could carry forward into the to the monitoring aspects of the program. And then there's a couple of optional, excuse me, I want to get a drink. A couple of optional things that are there for folks that might be interested. There's the opportunity to conduct soils analysis if you're interested in getting an understanding of the state of the soils that you're managing right now. We have some funds there that could do that. And on the other side of that, another option is this idea of fecal analysis, and that's tied to forage quality. A lot of people are really interested in understanding, what the quality of the forage that's being consumed. And so with partnerships, we've got the opportunity year over year to conduct fecal analysis and report back to participating producers forage quality. And part of that, is the ability then to be able to see how the management practices that are being put in place are impacting long-term that forage quality that the animals are receiving. And then there's an additional $3,000 for support in attending educational events. I think that's one thing that's also very important. I know one-on-one technical assistance is wonderful, but I also know as a producer that peer learning is very important too, and being able to interact with my colleagues and peers at some of these events is something that we recognize is of value to producers, and so we wanted to support that with this. So, in a nutshell, that's kind of the conservation incentive package, and there's some ability to work within that. If you're not doing the fecal analysis, maybe that rolls into some practice implementation dollars or things like that. So there's ways to work with that, and that would be put together as you work one-on-one with your technical assistance provider going forward with the program. So that's kind of the overview of what that package looks like. And I think the next slide. Yep. If you need to learn more about it, you could go to grazinglands.org/legacy-landscapes. And we got a lot of material there and more coming.
Love it. Thank you, Bill. As always, incredibly well said. And I'll just end on this because we've talked a lot about, well, what are the benefits? How can you get into a program like this? How best to make sure that your ranch qualifies, and where you can actually deploy those dollars and those benefits. I think when it comes down to it, we didn't want there to be these insane quid pro quos, right? This really is about supporting ranchers, and thus the deliverables as a rancher that's enrolled. And I think we'll hear a little bit about this from Eric and his experience. It is to drive efficiency through those new practices, right? Work with your TA, implement those new interventions so that we can have that measurable impact year on year, and then be able to collect and submit that data so that we can quantify that impact, right? Again, to have that measurable change in a few key metrics across the ranch. And those are really those deliverables, from a rancher's perspective. Those are those key things: willingness to adopt new interventions and the ability to submit that data so that it can be quantified for our funding partners. So before we get to Steph and Eric, I'll stop sharing screen. There have been a few questions that have come through, so thank you in advance. There's two here. Bill, I might start with you. It looks like it's an intervention question. Can water structures be built, and what about downed and dead tree removal? Two good questions.
Those are good questions. Certainly on the water distribution issues and putting construction in for new waters, that's a practice that would greatly improve grazing and management opportunities. So that's there. Downed and removal of dead biomass. I think that would be one that we would take into consideration and have the conversation. I don't have a direct answer for that one. I do know for water infrastructure, yes.
Awesome. Very good. And then Catherine, thank you so much for the question. Who has access to the data? Phenomenal question. So the data that you are entering into the AgriWebb platform is 100% owned by you all, the rancher. That's true for all of our users across the globe. And effectively what you're agreeing to, or what you would in the platform agree to do, is share that data specific points. I'll be very clear. We have a great one pager where you can see which of those data points are actually required. Share that data with the regrow team to do the quantification. It is not shared any farther than that. The only thing that again, our funding partners would need to see is an anonymized report that shows that quantified impact. So they would never know who you are unless you want to have them out to the ranch and get their boots dirty. It's always fun. So the data is not shared any farther than the regrow team, and even that we can look to anonymize. It's not monetized in any way. It truly is to make sure that we can quantify that impact. And the other thing I'd add too is that it is very specific points of data. No financials are necessary. There's the vast majority of the data that you would capture across your ranching operation is not needed. We're really specifically looking at the number of animals, their age class, their weights, and feed records. And then depending on that intervention that you're selecting with Bill and his team, there would be maybe a one or two of those other pieces of data that would be necessary to quantify that change in practice. So we don't need to know anything about your financials. There's nothing that kind of would be in that realm of data that would need to be shared. So hopefully that answered that question there, Catherine. If there's any other questions, I'll definitely pause here for a second, see if anybody's furiously typing something in based on that kind of quick overview. But if not, we'll certainly get to Steph and Eric, as we said, kind of the stars of the show. And again, happy to answer as many questions as do come in. So get those into the Q&A or the chat over the next few minutes. But Steph, I'll turn it over to you and Eric.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Campbell. So we really wanted to just have this discussion with Eric, who's been participating in the program, so that you guys can have a direct example of what it's like to participate. And so we'll go through a discussion, but as Campbell said, please feel free to continue to throw questions in the chat. We want to make sure that we get all of those questions answered. I think to kick things off, Eric, would you give us an overview of the ranch, where you're located, just for the benefit of some of those that are joining a little bit late?
Yeah, absolutely, Stephanie. So our ranch is located in Northeast Texas, Longview, Texas, and we run a commercial cow-calf operation that is predominantly based Angus-based genetics with a little bit of Brahman influence, just to handle the heat and environment in this area. We are really big on thinking out forward and how we do things and how can we always continually get get better, and always up to try new things. I think Bill told me whenever he first came out here, we're one of the only people he knows of that is actively doing prescribed burns on Bermuda grass in East Texas. So it is something that we're just going to try and see if it works, and it has been working. But um, love the fact that this Legacy Landscapes program came out, and I know this may come up in a question, but I'll go ahead and answer it. I love the fact that they don't tell you what to do. They ask you, what are some of the goals of your operation? What are some of the things that you want to accomplish and that you want to try to become more efficient? And then let's work towards that. And that's one of the very first conversations that Bill had with me was, what do you want to do? What is the goal for your operation? How can we assist you in becoming more efficient and effective at what you do that ultimately gains that profitability aspect for us to be able to be here for a long term. And I love that about the whole entire program.
That's great. What drew you to the program to begin with? What kind of sparked your interest there?
So this is not to sound too canned because it truly was my answer, but AgriWebb was my draw to the legacy landscapes because when I first came to it, the big payments of doing these implemented practices were not there yet. They were in talk, but it was basically just the financial incentive of AgriWebb with the um, digital record keeping, and then the $3 a head payment for doing that. But having access to AgriWebb, because exactly what Bill said, we traditionally have done Excel sheets and pieces of paper and written on the back of a feed tag, and data is everywhere. And then when we need to come to look at it, we have to do the full week of compiling that data and trying to figure out, okay, what did we do at this time 6 months ago? And having access to AgriWebb was a huge key driver for me coming to the program. And it's been incredible working with you, Stephanie, and the team with Matt and Leah. And it's truly helped us get a lot better because I don't know about everybody else, but for me, record keeping is one of my hardest tasks for anything, especially on the ranch whenever I'm trying to catch a calf that got through the squeeze chute when I didn't need it or anything else. Keeping up with those records is definitely the hardest part. But it's exactly what Bill said. If you don't write it down, you can't manage it. If you don't record it, you can't manage it. And that's really what drove me to it. Secondarily, the opportunity just to make our product more visible to some of the corporates that are in this world that are looking down to the people who are raising these cattle and doing stewards of the land, being able to highlight that to somebody that may have no clue of anything that we do here on the farm or anything we do with cattle, and being able to show them that this is the way forward to be able to not only provide healthy, clean air and water, but also that ultimate fact of providing really good protein for our consumers that are out there that can't do what we have the ability to do that. So that was a really cool thing that I was interested in, is being able to, you know, give an example to Purina and the corporate partners.
Yeah, that's awesome. The storytelling for the ranching industry, I think, is really powerful. So I'm glad you brought that up. When you first enrolled in the Legacy Landscapes program and you were starting to look at interventions, can you kind of talk about what that looked like for you? Were there practice changes that you had already maybe wanted to make that made this a little bit more feasible for you? Or did you discover some new ideas, or what did that process look like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have always been fairly big into rotational grazing and pasture management, doing things like that, but have really wanted to implement some cool season cover crops, and cover crops may not be the right word, but cool season grazing crops on some land that typically goes unused throughout the winter when we're feeding hay, if any time, when that comes. And that was one of the big drivers that me and Bill talked about, and we're able to implement this. We are able to do it last fall, and then going to do it again this fall, was to implement some cover crops into the rotation cool season. And then as I mentioned earlier, with doing some prescribed burns on the Bermuda grass to burn off the thatch after the summer growing season, to then come in and do some no-till drills in cover of cool season grasses. That's something that me and Bill came up with and gonna try to implement, and it's gonna be a really cool opportunity for me to be able to see what comes of that and see if it does make a difference with doing the combined two practices together to increase our efficiency on grazing, because ultimately I would love to never feed hay again. It doesn't always work out and we can produce a lot of grass. So hay sometimes is a very good viability, but if a cattle can graze year round, the rumen just stays so much better. And I love the fact that I'm able to try that implementation. A couple other things that we're looking at doing is trying to do some improved genetic management, bringing in some new genetics on some bulls that we are selecting that hopefully will help the cattle grow a little better. And then also going to look at implementing virtual fence on our operation to try to help a little more on that management grazing and alleviate some time constraints. So all of those are things that I've always wanted to do, and some of them we have implemented before coming into the program, but now I can actually go full fledged and implement them across the whole operation a lot better.
That's awesome. And I think it speaks to the menu of options that are available and really speaks to that customization. You know, your ranch in Texas looks probably a lot different than my ranch in Arizona looks. And so we're not going to be doing cover crops on my operation, but we might do some genetic selection or something to that effect. You know, there's a lot of different options to select a practice, multiple practices. It is very custom. And I think that
Yeah.
you did that.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's coming down with the forage and fecal analysis, I think is going to be really cool to be able to try to see, because ultimately a lot of these practices we're doing, the outcome is solely based off of the animal performance. But in reality, we're making changes at the forage and the ground level that may not immediately show up in the animal. And having that forage and fecal analysis is going to, or forage and soil analysis is going to be really, really awesome. And that's something that we're looking forward to doing this next year as well, to see if we can see any immediate differences, but also track it over a time period of, what are we doing over the next 4 years and how are these practices implementing over the next 4 years? And having that flexibility throughout the program is incredible, as I said early on. Not being told what to do, being asked, what are your goals? And let's try to figure out a management practice that makes it to there.
Yeah, works with the current conditions on the ranch. You know, your priorities might
Abs- Absolutely.
and have that flexibility. What advice would you give ranchers that are maybe on the fence about joining a program like this? Or, what advice would you give them as they're kind of starting their journey, researching or considering joining a project like this?
So the advice I would give is to basically take a leap of faith, because I've had nothing but great experiences. And specifically to the question about the data, the data that you provide for them is, one, extremely easy to do because of AgriWebb. Two, it is not very much. I mean, it's not a location. It is a number of animals, but it's a number of animals so they can prove the efficiency of the operation, but it is very limited data. So I would say take the leap of faith I've looked at a lot of other programs that are centered around efficiency and different types of environmental practices. This is one of the few that I've found that gives that flexibility to meet your specific ranch's operation needs, because I've looked at a lot of them and I'm like, man, that doesn't exactly what you said, Stephanie. Some of that stuff is built for arid Arizona. I can't do that in East Texas. And this program gives us that flexibility to do. And ultimately it's a no risk to you at the ranch, because of the financial incentives that are there to help you do this. You either win because the practice made you better, or you fail at the practice, but you have very limited financial cost invested in it, and you learn something that, okay, well, that doesn't work here on my operation. But having that financial backing of the Legacy Landscapes program gives you that opportunity to take that leap and not have to worry about hitting the ground on your own, type scenario. So I would recommend to anybody that's remotely interested in making their operation better and more efficiently to look into this program, because it's been nothing but good for our place.
That's awesome. We love to hear that. No risk at all. So it's really only
Yeah.
upside is what I got from that. And again, with customization and being able to do what's going to be best for your operation. I think that's really important piece to that puzzle. And, for me, I see this as an opportunity for ranches to continue doing the good work that they're doing and maybe get a leg up on a project that they wanted to do already, but maybe they didn't have the resources to make that change as quickly as they maybe wanted to. And so this is a really great opportunity for producers to take advantage of that and keep more of these family operations running well into the future.
Absolutely. And something else you will learn is some of the things that had no part of the legacy landscapes that you may or may not be doing that are not good for your operation. Because we have also realized that as far as some of our grazing practices and how we've been moving cattle, it wasn't because we weren't keeping good enough records. We were coming back and grazing a little too quickly. And now that we have AgriWebb, we're able to see that and be able to identify that, because we have about 18 different pastures that we graze through. And it was a little cumbersome on our old record keeping, but it also pointed out to us some of these things that we could get better on that had nothing to do with the legacy landscapes specifically. It did eventually, but to start with. So yeah, it's a no risk, all reward.
Awesome. Well, that's all the questions I had for you. And we can keep chatting about it, but would love to open it up to the group. Does anybody have any questions that they'd like us to cover? I think there might be one in the chat. Can Forest Service and BLM lands be included? I'll take a first stab at that. Yes, they can. This would be animal-based interventions. Potentially you could technically do a water infrastructure project. You just need to go through those channels, but I can let Bill add on to any of that, but the short answer is yes.
Yeah, no, totally right there with you, Stephanie, that yes, they can be included. This is it, the outcomes are based on the animal. The recognition there is that the land is that extension of the animal that produces that productivity and efficiency. So yes, they can be eligible for this effort.
One that's just popped through here, and I'll pseudo paraphrase it. It was one that I definitely did some learning on when we first started this process, and Eric mentioned it when he had Bill on his ranch to learn more about it, to then set that management plan. So maybe Bill, to you, and I'm paraphrasing the question, but I was blown away when we first started this project that you were literally going to go to each one of these ranches, understand more about them, and then set the plan. Not, it's a 30-minute call and, here's my template that I'm just going to slightly adjust. Could you just talk a little bit about what does that process looks like, right? Right from I sign on the dotted line to I've got my management plan in hand. What does that process look like with NatGLC?
Yeah, so the way that we started this, and obviously there's been a little bit of a pivot, but that part of it's going to remain the same, is that once Eric signed up and was on board, we were setting up our time to be able to get together. I went up to Longview, sat down, spent the day most of the day with him, talking about, before we even started talking about managing land, we talked a lot about goals and all kinds of things going on, exchange stories about family, because we all know that these kinds of operations are, they're long-term, they're generations, as well as first-time farmers and ranchers too. There's no distinction between the two, but getting to know that, to interact with each other is always important. The idea of building the relationship, because it is a relationship between the rancher and the technical assistance provider, the tools experts, as well as, to an extent, sometimes the quantification side of it if they're interested. But building that relationship, and then we started. Eric took me on a tour And quite honestly, what I did was I learned from him. I'm from South Texas, and needless to say, what he does in Northeast Texas is about 150% different than what we do in South Texas. So spent some time learning with him, and then we started talking about and discussing these different ideas and bigger picture, okay, what are you doing genetics wise? What are your goals for your animals? Were you thinking about this? He was explaining to me about that little bit of Brahma, that little bit of ear that he brings in because of heat and pests and things like that. Of course, like Eric said, he blew me away. I have not personally, because I spent most of my time in rangelands, talked about prescribed fire on coastal Bermuda grass. So naturally, I was very intrigued with that. But then he started explaining to me what's going on with where he's at with the nutrition of the plants and the response back to it and that type of stuff. And by the end of the day, we had 2 or 3 ideas that said, okay, here's some focus areas. A couple of conversations after that, and the next thing you know, Eric's talking about his cover crops and his prescribed fire, and I think he's got them on the books planned out, and that's how this is set up for that one-on-one technical assistance, because it's a relationship, with each individual rancher, the context of which they're in, and the goals which they have for their operations. And so that's just a critical part of it. And that is the focal point of NatGLC and all of its partners in the state coalitions and the regional coalitions there. Everybody's all, working together with that, but it's the relationship and that conversation. I think that, Eric, I don't know if I won't answer for you, but I appreciated our conversation very much.
No, I was going to add to that's a huge benefit to the program, is having that technical expertise to come out and look at your operation in person, listen to what you're doing, but also bringing that network of knowledge that you have from seeing so many different operations, and then also working with AgriWebb, seeing that network of knowledge that they bring of working with producers across the globe, essentially, of different practices, because ultimately we're all trying to raise cattle, but we do it in a very different way across all regions. And having somebody look at your operation from outside looking in is a huge benefit for us, because I felt like that we could sometimes be blinded. And again, like what we're doing on our own operation, and then somebody come in and say, well, have you thought about this? Have you thought about doing that? And it's been an awesome opportunity to work with everybody.
I think that's a key point too, Eric, is that there's no predetermined right answer.
Correct.
It's developing that relationship, that conversation, and then just like you said, have you thought about this idea? And then discussing it and coming to an idea of whether it would work or not, and then ultimately it's the producer's decision to implement.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
phenomenal to hear. Again, it was one of those things that kind of blew me away, that we're actually going to be sending folks like Bill and local folks, right? Bill, it's not going to be you every single time. Like if you join in Arizona or Kansas, it's going to be a local expert that's going to be joining you. But it's just an incredible opportunity. Couple more that they're coming in right at the bell here, so keep them coming. We'll try and get to as many as we can in the next 6 minutes. What does getting started look like? So we've pseudo touched on that in terms of the technical assistance, but the second part to that question that Steph, maybe you can touch on, is you're typically the one that's helping these ranchers get up and running. How long does it normally take to get set up in AgriWebb and to actually join the program?
Yeah, so as far as the AgriWebb setup goes, it can be really quick. You'll be assigned a customer success manager that does a lot of the heavy lifting for you. So we'll schedule a meeting. We'll talk about how you're doing your record keeping right now, what you would like that to look like moving forward, and really meet you where you're at. We're not asking you to make these big changes all of a sudden. We're really trying to kind of create a journey for you to be able to switch to digital records that is simple and easy and pain-free. So we will do a bulk of that setup for you, provide you training, and then you have full-time support as you move through the program. So really, it can be as fast as you need it to, or we can even take a little bit more time if you're somebody that needs to take it at a slower pace. So the short answer is it's very, very custom, but we make sure that you're set up for success.
Yeah, and that's been really wonderful. Steph and her team and Campbell, the whole group. We've got a different groups of people that are engaged so far. Eric's on the front side of that, very technologically moving forward with this, and he's really grasped it. But they've worked very diligently with other producers that maybe have not really thought about this in the past on what these tools can do, and they've just been there and supported those producers at every question.
I need to step in and give a shout out to Leah with the AgriWebb team because she makes me look a lot better. She's been incredible to work with. So, but I will echo their comments. They are right there with you. I mean, matter of fact, me and Leah, we have a monthly scheduled meeting that she gets on and says, okay, what do we need to go over that you experienced in the past month? What can we change to help you get better? But she's also right there at a text message too. I mean, we were working cattle 2 months ago and I needed to do something on AgriWebb, and so I texted her, and she responded back almost immediately. So, shout out to her. I don't know if she's on the web, but please relay that info because she's been incredible to work with.
Will do.
You bet. Ellen asked the question, we have sheep and cattle. Are sheep eligible too? Right now, the program is designed for the cow-calf industry. Or aspect of the industry. We're looking at the cow-calf as the primary where we're currently at. In the future, as this thing evolves and continues to grow, I think that there would be opportunities possibly for other classes of livestock. But right now, it's predominantly cow-calf oriented.
Yeah, and just to clarify there, Bill, I think this is correct, but you can check me. If you're running a mixed operation, you can enroll. We would just only be enrolling your cattle. Is that fair?
That's right. Yeah, Steph brought that up earlier in the conversation, and yes, if you've got, say, you've got commercial cattle and seed stock, you'd only be enrolling your commercial cattle side of things, cow-calf side of things. So, but yes, you can have a mixed operation. That last one, I guess, would kind of fall into my category too. Who would be the technical service provider for Eastern Colorado? That is to be determined. I know that there are conversations going on with folks. The way that it is going to be set up with this for the technical assistance side of things, there will be a shared effort between Colorado and Nebraska, a shared effort between New Mexico and Kansas, and then a shared effort between Arizona and Texas. And there's going to have a leader for each of those pairs of states. So for whoever asked that question, just be a little bit patient there as we're getting this thing up and running. They're going to be filling those very quickly with who that person will be in Eastern Colorado.
Tough to go wrong from at least my experience. Tough to go wrong with anyone from NatGLC. So I think it's whoever is going to get allocated. I've not met anyone that I wouldn't be excited to bring onto my hypothetical ranch. I'm now realizing I'm the only one without cattle on this panel, so I'll have to see if I can convince the missus. There we go. Last one, Michael Ferris. Thank you. Does it have to be traditional cow-calf operation, or can it be more of a stalker operation? Maybe Bill and Steph, I'll leave that one to you guys as well.
Go ahead, Steph.
So this is targeted towards cow-calf specifically. So we wouldn't want to enroll stalkers, but that being said, if you are a mixed operation, we can still just enroll the cow-calf side of things. You'll still have access to AgriWebb across the entire operation. We're not going to limit you there, but the enrolled head would just be the cow-calf sector. It's a great question.
Yeah, very good. I know we're right at the bell here. If there are any more questions that pop up, I will certainly answer them. But in terms of next steps, we're going to be sending out a recording of this, some links. I know Bill had put up a link on the share screen earlier. but we'll be sending through a kind of expression of interest form, as well as a direct contact to the NatGLC folks, to Steph, and we'll certainly be following up with everybody that's on the call today, to just understand where your head's at, see if it might be something that'd be interested in for you and your ranching operation. So yeah, look out for that email. We'll get that out as soon as we possibly can. The team will usually turn it around in about 24 hours. So look at about this time tomorrow. And then if they are interested, either respond to that email, go to the website. There's an unlimited way of reaching folks that are happy to talk to you about getting rolled in Legacy Landscapes. But I can't thank certainly Eric for taking the time to speak with us and talk about his ranching operation and his experience. Obviously Bill and the NatGLC team for helping put this together and all the incredible work that they do. And thank you all for being on the call. We're really excited to see this much excitement about the program, and hopefully we'll get everybody on the call enrolled in Legacy Landscapes in the not so distant future. So thank you all very, very much again, and look forward to being in contact shortly.
Thank
you
you
all.
everyone for having me.
Thanks, guys.